This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices edged higher on Friday but posted a weekly decline, under pressure from market expectations of oversupply and uncertainty around tariff talks between the U.S. and China. Brent crude futures settled 32 cents higher at $66.87 a barrel, taking losses to 1.6% over the week. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude gained 23 cents to $63.02 a barrel, marking a weekly decline of 2.6%. China exempted some U.S. imports from its steep tariffs in a sign on Friday that the trade war between the world's top two economies could be easing, though Beijing quickly knocked down U.S. President Donald Trump's assertion that negotiations were underway.
Some small U.S. shale producers are putting the brakes on oil drilling as crude prices sink to multi-year lows and steep tariffs drive construction costs higher. Less drilling could slow future output growth from the world's top oil producer. Total U.S. production is forecast to reach a new record this year at 13.7 million barrels per day, BPD, with some 9.7 million barrels of oil per day coming from shale. Both U.S. and international energy watchdogs have, however, cut their forecasts for 2025 total U.S. production growth. The U.S. Energy Information Administration cut its output growth forecast by 100,000 barrels of oil per day to 300,000 barrels of oil per day.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
India could allow foreign companies to take a stake of up to 49% in its nuclear power plants, three government sources said, as New Delhi draws up plans to open up its most guarded sector to help achieve goals to cut carbon emissions. The government has considered changing its nuclear foreign investment framework since 2023. The need to increase nuclear capacity, however, has become pressing as India seeks to replace carbon-intensive coal with cleaner sources of energy. Investment in the sector has the potential to spur tariff negotiations with the United States, although the officials could not say whether the issue would be linked to any trade deal.
China's wind and solar power generation capacity surged to 1,482 gigawatts by the end of March, exceeding fossil fuel-based thermal power capacity for the first time in its history, the country's energy regulator said on Friday. Though China is one of a small number of countries still commissioning new carbon-intensive coal-fired power, it has embarked on a rapid renewable power expansion program, with new installations reaching record levels in recent years. It set a goal to raise wind and solar capacity to 1,200 gigawatts by 2030, and met the target 6 years early last year. Campaigners have urged Beijing to double the target. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Gold prices fell 2% on Friday and were on track for a weekly dip as the dollar rose and signs of easing U.S.-China trade tensions after a report that Beijing had exempted some U.S. goods from its tariffs weighed on bullion. Spot gold was down 1.7% at $3,292.99 an ounce as of 1:39 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 17:39 GMT, after it fell as much as 2% earlier in the session. Bullion is down 1.2% for the week. U.S. gold futures settled 1.5% lower at $3,298.40.
India is chalking up a host of incentives to spur production of green steel and drive local steelmakers' decarbonisation efforts, the Federal Steel Secretary said on Friday, as the country aims to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions. India, the world's biggest steel producer after China, has been working on a green steel policy in a bid to decarbonise procurement and production of the key construction material, as it charts its path to target net zero emissions by 2070. We are trying to do a lot of things to incentivize green steel, including working on a mission where we will try to support the industry for decarbonization, Sandeep Poundrik said at an industry event.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Consultancy Strategie Grains kept its forecast unchanged for 2025-26 European Union rapeseed production for a third straight month, while reducing its outlook slightly for the EU's next sunflower seed crop. The consultancy still sees production of rapeseed, the EU's main oilseed crop, reaching 19.0 million metric tons next season, 13% above the 2024-25 volume. Sunseed production is now projected at 10.5 million tons, down from 10.6 million expected last month but still around 26% higher than this season.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.